This is a really good article from Vulture, and basically it's an interview with the vice president and head writer of Rockstar Games, Dan Houser, how the West was digitalized, making of Rockstar Games Red Dead Redemption 2. Linked below in the description section, and GameSpot have already read over the article, and they basically already took the cliff notes out, so we'll go over the cliff notes regarding Red Dead Redemption 2. But still, it's a fantastic read if you want to check it out. There is some spoilers. It's not too bad. A lot of it's stuff we already know about the game. There is some stuff that we didn't know, but there's definitely information that most of us that have been following Red Dead Redemption 2 are already aware of. Plus, a little bit of backstory regarding Rockstar's origins, along with Dan Houser. Very interesting read if you guys wish to go read this yourself. It's a pretty long read. Not all of it's about Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's definitely worth checking out. Alright, so we'll start with GameSpot. Red Dead Redemption 2 boss reveals shocking stats about the game. By the way, the links to the GameSpot I'll also link in the description section as well. Rockstar also talks about some of the content it cut from the much anticipated PS4 and Xbox One Western. So yes, there is cut content we will discuss. Let's see, the author at Vulture is Harold Goldberg, by the way. He sat down with Rockstar Games co-founder Dan Houser recently for a chat about Red Dead Redemption 2. So yeah, I mean, this article was like, look at that. It's long. So that's why we're going with GameSpot. They already did the work, so I'm giving them credit. Yay for them. And I did read the Vulture article, by the way, so I didn't really see anything that they didn't include in their articles. Anyways, starting off, Houser discussed the intense production of the ambitious Western, saying in a piece of Vulture that some people on the development team worked 100-hour weeks several times in 2018, this year, to finish the game. It's an alarming figure, though not as entirely surprising. In 2010, the spouses of Rockstar San Diego employees wrote impassioned blog posts in which they criticized Rockstar's management for overworking employees on the first Red Dead Redemption. Rockstar responded to the post saying it was saddened if any former members of the studio did not find their time here to enjoyable or creatively fulfilling, and wished them well with finding an environment more suitable to their temperaments and needs. Okay, so anyways, going back to the Vulture piece, see, Houser said a lot of stuff, but specifically revolved around Red Dead Redemption 2. Quote, "We were working 100-hour weeks, several periods for the time in 2018. Oftentimes, at ends of projects, developers would crunch to finish a game, and it appears this was also the case of Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 appears to be a massive undertaking. The Vulture report says that the final game has 300,000 animations, 500,000 lines of dialogue. It is estimated by the author, presumably based on information from Houser and other Rockstar representatives, to be a 65-hour game." That's basically, I guess, the story runtime, 65 hours, and it could have been longer. The report says that Rockstar cut 5 hours from the game, one part of which was scaling back a love interest for the main character, Arthur Morgan. Apparently, the writers intended for Morgan to have 2 love interests, but Houser explained that, quote-unquote, one of them didn't work, and as such, the story element was removed. Additionally, some missions got axed because they were never going to work technically, or be quite slick enough, or they felt superfluous. Now, going back to 65 hours, I estimate that that's just playing the story itself from start to finish, maybe deviating a little bit. And you could probably easily double that time by simply exploring and hunting and fishing and doing all sorts of random organic nonsense in Red Dead Redemption 2. So it's going to be interesting to see how long the story itself of Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be. Feels like it's going to be even longer than Red Dead Redemption, which I am continuing to live stream later on this afternoon. We're going to be going into episode 2 in a few hours from now. Now, regarding the love interest, I think that this is probably for the best that they decided to only go and focus on one love interest for Arthur Morgan instead of 2 or more, even though I guess a few weeks ago I did theorize and speculate that there could have been multiple options for Arthur Morgan. I think it's for the best that they just give us one option, because in the end, that's not really as important as the game itself and the main broader story. And if the love interest makes sense for Arthur Morgan, then you might as well just stick with one, because there's some things we're going to have control over in this game But then there's also the larger story arc, which leads to the events of Red Dead Redemption that we have no real say over. We're just along for the ride. And the same can be said regarding Arthur's love interest. So one love interest, as long as it makes sense, as long as it works for Arthur Morgan, I'm okay with. But I guess we'll find out if it works or not when Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out October 26th. One mission that got removed had Arthur on a train trying to take down bounty hunters. Quote, "It was fun at first, but then it wasn't," Hauser explained. "This part of the process is always about compromise and horse trading. Everyone always loses bits of the game they love." So roughly 5 hours of the game they had to scrap for various reasons. And this is something that happens in the development of a lot of games. It happened with Mafia 2. As most of us Mafia fans know, they tried to recycle a lot of that into the Joe's Adventures DLC. Some of it worked. Some of it felt very obvious that it should have been in Mafia 2 to begin with. But this happens all the time when it comes to video games. Just some stuff ends up on the floor, right? Just like with TV shows and movies. Regarding Red Dead Redemption 2 being a 65-hour game, this is only one estimate for its length. Everyone plays games differently, so your mileage may vary. And of course, Red Dead Redemption 2 has an online mode, Red Dead Online, that seemingly offers plenty more opportunities to keep playing after the story credits roll. So the beta, as they're calling it, for Red Dead Online will launch sometime in November, several weeks after the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is not a surprise. That's exactly how it happened with Grand Theft Auto Online. It launched several weeks after the launch of Grand Theft Auto 5 back in September 2013. As Hauser said, game development is a fluid process and things change all the time. What's rare is for developers to talk about this, even more rare for one of the higher-ups at a secretive studio like Rockstar to be talking about it. The Vulture story continues on to claim that Red Dead Redemption 2's final script of the main story alone was 2,000 pages. Rockstar reportedly paid 1,200 actors to do motion capture work for Red Dead Redemption 2. 700 of them also recorded dialogue. What's more is that they all were represented by acting union, the SAG-AFTRA, which also asked its members to stop working last year amid a strike. That was eventually resolved. It's not immediately clear if Rockstar had to pause production of Red Dead Redemption 2's voice and mocap work as a result of the strike. Quote, "We're the biggest employers of actors in terms of numbers of anyone in New York by miles," Hauser says. Also in the interview, Hauser said Rockstar might make Red Dead Redemption 3, but he isn't committing to it yet. Rockstar will only do it if Red Dead Redemption 2 does well enough, and we think that we have other interesting things to say. Red Dead Redemption 2 will launch on October 26th for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I already mentioned Red Dead Online launching in November. And Hauser also said this about Red Dead Online: Rockstar intends it to be as robust as Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, regarding voice acting in Red Dead Redemption 2, this was a funny bit in the Vulture article that Dan Hauser was talking about. A scene back from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Him and Burt Reynolds had an argument about the direction of a scene in 2002's Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It ended with Reynolds yelling, "Get that limey out of here." "I don't want to speak ill of the dead," poor bugger, Dan said, "but we don't bring in name actors anymore because of their egos, and most important of all, because we believe getting a bigger sense of immersion using talented actors whose voices you don't recognize." So that's a big reason why most of the actors that you see in Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 and other Rockstar games you've never heard of, with a few exceptions, like Burt Reynolds or like Ray Liotta from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Even though I kind of hope that if we ever do go back to Vice City, that they'll at least bring Ray Liotta back, because, you know, come on. Anyways, but he also talked about Public Enemy's Chuck D. One of his heroes was involved with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So it was interesting that, you know, they talked a little bit about voice acting in this long article from Vulture, which once again is definitely worth the read. The most famous actor in Red Dead Redemption 2, by the way, is apparently Graham Greene, and cool. His role is a small one, but it's close to Dan's heart because it signifies everything that's compelling about the game, history, politics, in a sense that this same kind of thing could happen in the world today. Now, regarding female characters in Red Dead Redemption 2, I thought this was worth discussing from the Vulture article. Rockstar has been criticized for the lack of empowered women in its games. Dan believes this won't be an issue in Red Dead Redemption 2, which features, among others, this old intellectual called Lillian Powell, who comes back to the South from New York, who's almost like a Dorothy Parker character. There's also ones who are weak and ones who are weak and then become strong, and then ones who think they are strong but are not. And that goes for the men too. The burgeoning women's suffrage movement also figures in the story. It was a time when women were beginning to question their roles, and the Wild West was an area where people could invent themselves for the first time. Many of the people who were inventing themselves were women, says Dan. They're no longer constrained by society because there is no society. As for inspiration regarding Red Dead Redemption 2, Dan says it was research from books he consumed, hundreds of them, books and films, but nothing contemporary. I don't want to be accused of stealing ideas. He mentions Dickens, Henry James, Keats, Emile Zola, and Arthur Conan Doyle, who just had great sections about America, you know, like brilliant things about union disputes in Pennsylvania, a brilliant thing about Mormons in Utah, but there's no greater character in history of literature than Great Expectations' Uriah Heep. Despite its classical influences, Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't meant to be just a period piece, as most movie westerns reflect the era of their making. Dan says he hopes the game speaks to the present, elliptically, but not literally. You know, we don't have this person meant to be Donald Trump and this person meant to be Barack Obama. It's more the sensation that we found interesting in the 19th century that spoke to us, and I hope it speaks to the people about today's problems. They do talk about Leslie Benzies real briefly at the end, so I'm sure a lot of you want to know about that. On top of everyday drama of game making, there's some additional turmoil. Producer Leslie Benzies, who worked for Dan and Sam's steering Grand Theft Auto series since Grand Theft Auto 3 back in 2001, took a sabbatical and was let go, and in 2016 sued Rockstar for $150 million in unpaid royalties. When the writer of Vulture asked about it, Dan pauses for a moment, squints, and says, quote, "Well, we've got an open case with him, so I don't think it's appropriate to talk about that, but I will say that the team has never worked better together than it's worked on this game." One other thing that I found very interesting about this is this article once again confirms how secretive and how secure a place like Rockstar is. And I think this was at Rockstar New York. There are governments out there not as secure as Rockstar Studios. But all in all, like I said, a very interesting article, worthy of reading over if you're a Red Dead Redemption 2 fan or a Grand Theft Auto fan or even a Rockstar Games fan, all of above. I definitely would recommend you checking out this article and reading over it from Vulture. Link below, along with the GameSpot article in the description section. And we are just about a week away from the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2 on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. And yes, I will definitely be streaming Red Dead Redemption 2 when it comes out. But before then, we're going to be hanging out with Mr. Marston, continuing on later on today. And yes, I will continue covering any Red Dead Redemption 2 news that comes out, and possibly even a launch trailer. That usually happens leading up to the release of a game. Anyways, feel free and share your thoughts, your views, opinions about this Vulture article below in the comment section.